Welcome to a bonus episode of Zero Hanger TV. We're going to just be answering your questions. Don't forget to, if you want to submit a question, follow us on Instagram. So the first one comes from Western Syrup. So simply, what's going on at the Doggies?
What's going on at the Doggies? Big question. Yeah, it's a funny one. They've been such an up and down team all year, and look, they've been around that 8th mark all season, and I think they're going to be finishing in the finals. So where the concerns are still big ones, I think, even if they are going to be a finals finishing team, because they don't want a repeat of last year. They don't want to show up to September and be knocked off the park and more so, suffer a big comeback loss like they did to Fremantle last year and like they did on the weekend to GWS. Look, it's just so bizarre with the numbers that their key figures are putting up. You look at Tim English just having an All-Australian year. You could certainly add Marcus Bontempelli to that, and even Tom Liberatore is arguably having his best year as one of the underrated players of the competition. Bailey Dale offering plenty out wide. Look, Jack McRae, I think, is finding life interesting this year for his career, but he's still certainly getting enough of the ball and being one of those inside 50 movement players. But it is really at the ends where they're not really finding the consistency. Murray Ugle-Hagan is this close, I think, to just really taking that next step. He's getting his hands to a lot of the ball, but conversion's obviously a big factor, and the same with Aaron Naughton. They had a lot of plans for Rory Lobb, not getting what they wanted out of him, and obviously he's fluctuating in and out of the senior side. Then you talk about their back line and all the players that have kind of come in and out of that. I think Luke Beveridge has called it a revolving door at one point this year, just with selection and their key defenders, and hopefully they get Liam Jones back soon. Josh Bruce out for what you'd think is the next 12 months with an ACL injury. So from a personnel perspective, it's really those ends that they've kind of got to improve on. But they're winning a lot of the clearance game, and the weekend was the exact same. I think stoppages, they had plus 12. It was pretty level from centre, but they still won centre clearances as well. So they're getting that. Their inside 50 efficiency is something lacking, which is quite a staggering when you've got two of the best kicks going inside 50 in McRae and Bont. So there are a few issues for the Dogs that they would like to flip around, but they've got an easy enough run to make it to September, have the week, and hopefully get at least one win in finals this year.
Yeah, and it is just a really even competition at the moment. So there's a lot of contenders there. But speaking of Aaron Naughton, we did have another question from Zach. So Naughton to Collingwood.
It'd be nice for the Pies fans. Don't see it happen. Well, at least not this year. Off contract next year. Isn't a free agent either. So we'd still be needing to request a trade and get out of Whitten Oval. And most likely any suitors are going to be from WA to try and pull him back home. That's certainly not ruling out clubs from Victoria trying to pinch him from the Dogs. It'd be really interesting to see where the Dogs are at this time next year. Whether they're still in the top 8 or whether they start finding themselves falling down. I feel like a lot of clubs from underneath are coming up quick. But yeah, Naughton not so likely, at least from a Pies target. This year, linked to Harry Himmelberg, which I think is a pretty good fit for the Pies, but I don't think they're a leading suitor by any means. And then next year, Ben King is going to be the big one. That's off contract that a lot of clubs, namely Collingwood, will be interested in. And the Pies will, I'm not sure how much cap room they'll be able to open up at the end of next year. They'll have. Well, supposedly Nick Dacos is close to a new deal. Josh Dacos is off contract at the end of the next year, also close to a new deal. But you've got guys like Scott Penderbury, still side bottom, Jeremy Howe. There's a fair few that come off contract. Whether it's enough for them to make room for Ben Kings or an Aaron Naughton is another thing. But I think the Pies would be looking elsewhere and not at Aaron Naughton.
Yep, good stuff. All right. And last question from Steve Morris. So just some trade targets for the Saints.
We'll have our St Kilda trade targets in a couple of weeks' time, a bit more extensive than what we can offer right now. But look, they've missed out on Tom de Koning, which is obviously one that they probably would have been putting a bit of work into. They're probably going to miss out on Ben Mackay if there's an interest there. I think they do need a key defender as much as they want maybe that ruck support for Rowan Marshall. They're going to potentially look at guys from their area, from that Bayside area. Hayden McLean's one who's off contract. Can help in the ruck, will mostly play forward. With Buddy Franklin retiring, the Swans are likely going to press for him to stay there, but he's certainly one that could be in the sights of the Saints. And as well as that, you've got Steve Silvani there, so is he going to try and pull any more Blues after missing out on de Koning? Does he go for, son Jack? Does he go for a Paddy Dow or Zach Fisher? Jade Gresham is linked to the Blues, so there could be something that works out there, but he's a free agent, so it's more blurred lines. But we'll have a more extensive 5-man shortlist for the Saints in a couple of weeks on zerohanger.com. Yep.
All right, good stuff. Well, that wraps it up for this episode of answering your questions. Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram if you want to submit a question, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch all the latest AFL news at zerohanger.com.